This is a video by Bradley Martin's, or it's a podcast, Bradley Martin's Raw Talk. So we'll see. We'll see if we keep this in. it's but Clavehicular, for those of you who don't know, is a kind of up and coming, strange sort of fellow. Yeah. Strange fellow. He takes. Yeah, never mind. We'll get into it maybe.
Go to the App Store right now. Download the Prize Pick app. Very simple.
Oh.
Just literally type in Prize Picks. All the
simple.
picks. It's really simple to use, more or less. Any stat line, go check it out, more or less. There's football, baseball, basketball, everything you could think of. You want to go do your pick somewhere, go to Prize Picks, do it there. Use code Bradley when you download the app. You could also follow me at Bradley Martin on the app. So going to become this place. I've been using it for years now. Download the app right now in the App Store. Use code Bradley. Again, they're going to give you $50 on your first $5 lineup. Free money. Might as well go give it a shot. Let's get into this pod with Clav.
It's actually, there was a weird thing I was thinking of. This is kind of a bonus theory. You know, now I'll insert it later. Never mind.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on
Deuce.
it just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
Did you take anything to be ready for the interview?
No, I've been
LSD. That'll make you ready.
stopping all of the stimuli usage, trying to taper off that. So I'm just fully dialed in, sober.
Yeah.
So
how did your
Fully dialed in. There's an interesting notion surrounding the notion of it feels like the idea of taking something to be comfortable around people is not a good way of doing it. I feel like you kind of have to be able to get to the point where you can be yourself around people without any sort of stimuli or any sort of altered substance, I think. Is it it's one of those things where if you actually get results on that type of thing, it feels like it could make it more habit forming. Like you have people who you can't really relax until they have a beer or something. It's like if you use that as a crutch, it's kind of, I think it's going to feed itself a little bit to the point where you get where you feel like you can't really go around people unless you have that thing. Yeah, that's probably not a great idea.
first because I seen clips of you talking about doing
doing math.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
That's what I was talking about. He had this thing for a while where I think he would do meth to lean max. He would do this thing where he would break his cheekbones, microfractures or whatever, with a hammer to, I guess, make his cheeks more pronounced. I think the whole idea is that he's kind of his body is a playground kind of that he messes with to try and look smacks. That is effectively his shtick. Mogging.
how did that start?
Well, so that started because I went on a trip with some buddies, and you're not really too sure all the time what's in some of maybe the Miami cocaine. So we just opted to do meth, which we knew.
Miami cocaine. That's obviously that's famously impure, isn't it?
It was going to be more pure. So that's kind of how that started. And then you actually take a look at the science of what meth actually is, and it's really not too far off from just your traditional run-of-the-mill Adderall. So Adderall is,
I guess I don't know.
is dexamphetamine, right?
Yeah, it's a
We were
derivative.
taking dextromethamphetamine, so really not that much different, just a bit longer.
Because that's how science works. I could be wrong, but I think just because it has some of the same ingredients, it's not like it. Technically, all of the elements are just atoms and neurons. No, electrons, positrons. What is it? What is that? Electrons, neutrons, protons. They're all kind of combined from the same types of, particles that just the way they're arranged gives them vastly different characteristics. So again, the notion that some chemical formula is similar because it has similar, I don't know about that. It's not exactly hard science.
Of a half-life, because my goal was not only just for the productivity and the psychoactive benefits of methamphetamine, it was also for the appetite suppression, right?
Yeah.
Didn't the Apple guy take LSD or something to kind of expand his mind or something?
Trying to look smacks a little bit with meth. So that I agree that that's a little bit crazy, and I just want to clarify, I never advocate anyone to do this. I'm just like,
No, just looks maxing. We're talking about this whole thing right here. I kind of have a weak chin, so that's my power right there. It feels like my facial hair kind of helps with that a little bit.
this is what I did. But I don't think people should take stimulants. I think more people are going to go about stimulants in the wrong way rather than the right way.
Yeah.
So just right off the bat,
I don't know if there's a right way to go about meth. And it feels like that.
do not do that. Any of the shit I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know?
Because there's so many other things. There's so many different peptides and other things you can do
Right.
to suppress your appetite.
Oh yeah, no, I'm on retatrutide too.
Yeah.
And a pretty hefty dose of Reta. So, you know, I take 15 mg, but I just have such a high baseline appetite that like I don't really have time to do cardio.
This guy's also like 6'2", and I think he was gonna go somewhere. I don't know if he ever did or if he's still going to go somewhere to get rods put in his like legs, so he's 6'4" or something. It's like, ah, sweet glory. It feels like a lot of risk for what he effectively just describes as, hey, I want to get chicks or something. Or mogging, I believe that's the term he uses. It's technically not just about getting chicks, it's about looking better than other men, which is kind of, gay. A little bit gay.
You know, these days with like streaming and stuff. So if I want to go on like a really heavy shred, I was just like math maxing.
It just sounds insane.
I know, yeah, it does sound insane because like I'll sit here and I'll like explain it and I'll just be in like a fully monotone voice. But it's like, yeah, I'm doing math. So I know it's bad, but I haven't.
It feels like he's a little bit nervous. That's kind of like, it's one of those things where it's a glitch people have, I think, sometimes where like if you are really comfortable with people, you'll start to get animated and you'll actually use your hands more. Do you know, it's actually another weird thing. I notice this, I think, when I'm talking to either my parents or my brothers or like people I knew growing up or something like that, I feel like I almost use a different tone of voice. Like I'll actually use a higher tone of voice with them than I would with like just people that are my friends or something like that. And I'm not entirely sure why that is. Maybe it's just a degree of like, this person precedes me in age, and consequently there's type of, I don't know, dynamic there, psychological wise. I'm not for sure. Meekness, perhaps that's the right word.
Haven't done math in a while, so for like 2 weeks now. I don't plan on restarting.
Okay.
So
Said everyone ever. Oh yeah, I quit meth a couple weeks now. I don't plan on restarting. Yeah, that's kind of the point, but I don't know.
so we're done.
Yeah, good for him. But I feel like he has the arrogance of youth, perhaps, on the side. I think he's literally like 19 or something. I don't know what he is now, but it's he is quite literally the youngest and dumbest individual kind of in the scene. Maybe I don't know about the youngest, but
you don't have they didn't get you on the addiction
he has the arrogance of youth. All right.
inside yet.
No, dude, being addicted to drugs is like, I don't know. It's kind of a lack of willpower, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But there's certainly like more
Ha.
addictive things, like a lot of opioids and things like, or something like benzos, which make you like actually dependent.
Yeah.
Whereas stimulants, you just like feel bad. You don't really have the same drive that you do when you take them for a long time, and then you discontinue your usage. Yeah, the drive goes away, but you're not necessarily dependent. So
Yeah.
I was able to quite easily get off of this.
Is that the most
And he's been off of it for 2 weeks. Good job.
extreme thing you think that you've done for the look maxing sort of world?
I would say that how early I started TRT would.
It was weird. Never mind.
probably be
Yeah.
the thing that would be the most extreme, and just the introduction of things like HGH and aromatase inhibitors. Extremely young would be the
Aromatase
most
inhibitors. That's
extreme.
kind
of interesting.
That's
Like,
generally the
it
consensus.
just makes it you can't
I would say
taste
that, in my
things.
opinion, that doesn't really seem that extreme to me. It seems very logical, but that's just like what gets the biggest reaction out of people.
Okay. This is a little bit like just pure speculation. His voice sounds a little bit like slow in cadence. There's like no way he's on something right now, is there?
I would say the meth, in my opinion, would be more.
It kind of sounds like he's got like a little bit of a stoner type of voice.
Over the line.
Yeah.
When
And so you started taking testosterone. You were how old?
I was 14.
Dude, that's in.
And to be fair, that maybe that's just an affectation. That he's on a podcast with someone who's popular. I think Bradley Martin's pretty popular anyway, so it's kind of one of those things where, like, if you're in that scenario, you might be nervous and you might just behave a certain way. But it does feel like his kind of
Insane when I hear that.
Yeah.
it's like I don't know if you ever noticed it, like if you ever watched any of Hassan's stuff, you can tell. I think I'd mentioned this before, but there's this notion of, so you have what is effectively like a head voice, like really high, it's up here, and then you have a normal talking voice, like a chest voice, and then you have a stomach voice, and that's kind of what Hassan does sometimes. Hassan Piker. It's funny as I'll get it, but you can literally tell he's got this voice down here, and it's just like, and it changes like depending on what scenario he's in. It's kind of interesting though.
So
What's the logic behind that? You think that it's going to help you grow? Because it's more the growth hormone is going to help grow.
Yeah. Testosterone is not for, vertical height growth. It actually will serve to
For horizontal.
detriment you, which a lot of
Right.
people don't realize, because of the aromatization into estrogen. That's going to cause your growth plates to fuse, right? So it was more for facial masculinization, going for a more dimorphic look, and developing like the facial bones, things of this nature, just going for like an overall masculinized look. Early in
Too much of a good thing. Like I think it can be good to try and work out and crap, but this ain't it.
to my life,
Yeah.
Hi, I'm JT, and I made Result Hunter, the search engine for conservatives. Let me just tell you what it does. First of
No.
all, big
For the record, it seems like highly dubious. Whatever angle that thing is coming from, it is highly like, oh, a search engine for, like, I don't want my search engine to be patently biased. Of course, it probably is, but yeah.
So we got to talk about the whole goal of the looks maxi thing is like, from your perspective, because this didn't become. I feel like I don't know when did looks maxing actually start to become like a talking point.
Well, I would say that it became like a well-known, like trendy, like joke back in 2023. August of 2023 is when it skyrocketed in popularity, but it was mostly just like a lighthearted thing. It was more just like joking around, like mewing, maybe like people doing the stupid shit with their jaw. So that was 2023 was
Yeah.
like the first push. I would say now this is like a new
I feel like there, again, like too much of a good thing. Like there's a point to be made where you can try to make yourself look better, but it feels like there's a point past which you go where it's just like this avaricious thing where you, like, it will never be enough. The more you alter your body, the more you're just like, no, just a little bit more, like. And it feels like at that point you've gone past the point of, I want to look good, just because I want to look good, versus like this type of insatiable, I want to look good so that other people compliment me or do whatever, like where you're almost like kind of tapped into a different type of motivation that's not going to go anywhere anytime soon, and it's not going to let you rest anytime soon. And it feels like it's just not the greatest of great ideas. Like, yeah, I don't know exactly where the delineating line there would be, but
iteration of looks maxing that I'm kind of talking about now, which is actually what looks maxing was always meant to be, was like doing whatever it takes to ascend type of mentality.
Ascend. I know I should mention this before. This guy he's got to be like 5 weeks away from starting a cult or something. Maybe he already has one. It's just doesn't have all the pomp and circumstance of a religious cult.
So that kind of got lost with like the first popularization, because like a lot of the creators weren't really like tapped in with the actual looks max community. But now I'm saying, like, guys, like, this is serious, because I talk a lot about the ideology of why should you looks max, why is it so important,
Yeah.
you know?
That's what I want. So,
Yeah.
because candidly speaking, like, obviously I understand to an extent the way you look affects the way that you're received by people.
Right.
Right. So taller people.
No, I'm not sure to what extent I believe that. Like, I'm not saying it doesn't affect it, but I think your looks will only really matter until you meet and talk with a person for like over 20 minutes. Right? The more you know a person, the less I think their looks have a tendency to matter. I think there's actually studies along this line that effectively past 1 year, like if you've known the person for longer than a year, with regards to like choosing mates or something, that effectively the looks like drops way down in importance to almost functionally zero, perhaps. Because it feels like, again, past a certain point, you get past the surface level with a person, their looks start to matter a lot less than anything going on upstairs. Like, that's how we really connect to people, versus like a very superfluous, I can look at a person and they're aesthetically pleasing.
Normally are looked at maybe a little bit more respected, just because like it's just like a default thing that
Absolutely.
humans sort of see.
Yeah, just evolution.
And then
Sorry. No, I'm not sorry. I'm supposed to interrupt them. Okay, I'm supposed to be transformative. The idea would be that I think instinctively we almost associate good genetics with like with competency or something like that. So you will naturally kind of look at people who are pretty and almost assume that they're gonna do better, or that they're gonna be more competent or something like that. I think it's an actual thing.
visually, yeah, people tend to give more opportunities or more action in any sense, not even necessarily like sexual relations, all that, just like
You know,
even
it's
men to men are.
You know, it's actually a weird thing. I thought of this as a type of mind reading. And when you look at how people's eyes move, I have a theory that has something to do with where it's almost mirroring their thought processes, where you could almost count the thoughts they're jumping to, like the different jumps they're making in their heads, because they're like, I thought it'd be kind of an interesting notion to chase.
I'm more apt to sort of give you the time of day to hear you out if they're attracted to you, or I'm not saying it's like a guy on guy thing, but like in general.
It's just a subconscious bias. It's the halo effect.
But it's also
that might be the term halo effect. I think that's what I heard it called.
a little bit of a feminine trait.
Yes, it is super good. No, I just think
Caring to some to some crazy degree how you look, because we were doing this pod last night. I mean, I've talked about this plenty of times, but I was with Steiny. We were talking with Sky Bree about like, why are people so concerned like in interrelationships with men and women, where
I think there would be a point to be made that women, I think, on average, tend to maybe care more about how they look, and maybe that's kind of a socially conditioned thing. But I think I think people maybe tend to demonize some of these things and say, "Oh, it's men doing this to." Like, I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think a lot of this might just be a naturally occurring phenomenon. Like, I don't think women have so little agency that they can just be manipulated by men into wanting any like blank thing. And I think a lot of this can be more easily explained by, hey, men and women have natural differences, naturally occurring things that delineate them from one another. So like, yeah, I don't know to what extent I agree with that, but it does seem to be the case that women will be more vain about their looks, whereas men will be more prideful about something maybe they can do, or how strong they are, or stuff like that, perhaps.
It's like, you know, men look for women, and one of the highest sort of things that they look for is the way that they look visually, right? And the highest thing sort of women look for is financial security, so like money, right? Those are the two sort of trade-offs.
Well, is that really true though? The highest thing that women look for is definitely still looks over wealth. I think that's been very easily disproven by like a lot of the you know, self-report studies that we've seen, and just like, you know, stuff with
I would have heard stuff kind of going in the other direction a little bit. Well, I take that back. I'm not saying they don't like go for looks, but I don't think it's a type of like facial beauty thing necessarily. I think it would maybe be more to do with. I think there would be studies that would show that women maybe tend to go for like a certain like physical look, perhaps. Like there's obviously still this type of maybe instinctive, like if a guy looks strong or looks like he can take care of you, that's a thing, obviously. But obviously I think also it might depend like whether or not they're looking for like a one-night stand or whether or not they're looking for something long-term. Like the thing that might get a person into bed with you won't necessarily get them to marry you, I assume. This is not my area of expertise, but I think that's kind of the way it would shake down. Depends what they're like looking for in terms of a relationship, rather than just what's going to get them to sleep with you.
dating apps reporting their data. So I don't really think that's true at all. I would
You think that women look for
looks.
more than anything?
Yes, absolutely. You know,
Really?
yeah.
You don't think that most women? I guess in the short term that might be true, but like in the long term, do you think that that's what's true?
I think that, you know, when it's time to actually have a partner in the long term, that might come into play more. But, you know, a lot of these women won't even give you the time of day to, you know, prove your value, prove your.
I feel like that's more kind of a localized truth. We'll call that a subjective truth. It doesn't mean it's not real, but it just means I don't think that is the universal standard. I think because of the place where this guy is, because of the type of girls who he meets, that might be his perspective. I don't think it's the broader kind of notion of it. Like, it might depend where you meet the girls and what, like, I think there's a selection bias, because I think at one point he would have worked in a club as a bouncer. So yes, those types of girls, probably you're going to get a very specific type of girl who's coming into the clubs, right? I think in a broader sense, the types of women you would meet at work or at church or at some sort of function or perhaps just on dating apps in general, I don't know if they would necessarily be the same. You might get a little bit of a different breed of women.
Income if you're an ugly mother, right? So if you can't even have that first interaction go well, there's no way to build a rapport with women and, you know, be this guy who's got a high income, because you never even had that door opened, right? So looks are 100% the most important driving factor in relationships for men and women. And just circling.
Oh, 19 years old and he's figured it out. I don't agree with that.
Back to the thing about it being feminine to care about your looks.
Not necessarily.
And to be fair, he is 19 years old. So presumably he's dating other like 19-year-old, 20-year-old, whatever people. Maybe that's also different. Maybe there's an age thing in here as well.
Necessarily, like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying.
Yeah. I do agree with you. I think it's feminine only because women are the only, you know, people who are right now caring about their looks, but that doesn't necessarily make it feminine in, you know, your pursuit of improving, you know. It's just something that they traditionally have cared about, you know, but there's
Yeah.
nothing inherently feminine about looks, Maxon.
It's yeah, it just seemed, I don't know. I guess my perspective of it is like there's so many more things that a man could focus on. Not that, you know, if he can't make himself look better, right? I'm not saying like you don't do any of the things to make yourself look better. I do believe that. But to some extent it's like there's so many other sort of buckets in your life that you could improve on that would also make you more sought after. And I do understand what you're saying, where
Based.
if there's no initial attraction that maybe
Super mega based.
be that no matter how much money someone has, maybe they're just not even opening that door. But I do think that changes as you get older. I think as you get older, for both sides and both sexes, people are looking for different things. I think when you're younger, they're definitely looking for that, right? But I think it evolves.
Sorry, I'm not advocating for just to get.
Well, I think you would be right that there is a lot more you can do as a man who's unattractive to kind of build yourself up. Like if you're a woman and you're ugly, you're pretty much right. There's really no getting around that.
Oversimplification. I think it's also probably because of the place where this guy hangs out and the type of people that go there. You would maybe have what you would consider like just it's like a glorified, I don't know, mutual aid harem or something. Like it's where people go to get laid, and that's kind of what they do. In a lot of cases, what you're doing with other people is you're hanging out for a completely different reason that has nothing to do with having sex or something like that. And you're talking with these people and you're associating with them, right? Ostensibly for the purpose of socialization. Now, being or getting into a relationship can be an incidental of that, but it's not necessarily the reason why it happens, in my mind. So I feel like that's a very different dynamic that exists in the world he lives in, where he's kind of like exclusively trying to associate with women to get with them versus, you know, any sort of like real world scenario where you're just associating with women and maybe a relationship forms.
As a man, you could increase your income, you know, you could become a high status person. But the problem is that a lot of people leave out this key piece of nuance is that you have to, you know, succeed so much in terms of, you know, your annual income or how high status you are to compete with people who are good looking, right? So maybe we're sitting here talking about it, influencers or some other red pill guy who are
Arm's still braced. I don't think he's relaxed yet. I'm just armchair psychoanalyzing this guy, aren't I?
like top percentile stat. Like this is not, you know, your status and your income. Like that's not going to be achievable by the average person like listening to the podcast, right? So whereas maybe improving, you know, 20 percentiles in looks is much more achievable, which is why, like, as a general rule of thumb, I think that looks maxing is a better way to improve yourself as a man than income and status. I think it's just more realistic.
So because it's a lower hanging fruit to be able to do.
Yes.
I see. For the majority of the population.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I like to
just, maybe this isn't true in this, again, different circumstances, different types of people, but it feels like what women often tend, I think, to like, again, not my area of expertise, but I think what women tend to like is a guy who doesn't care so much what people think. And this feels like antithetical to that. The whole notion of, like, at least the degree to which he takes it feels antithetical to that notion of, like, that's kind of a typical manly like, it's a trait I think that women maybe look for. They want a guy who's not, like, who is his own person and who can be his own person regardless of what other people think, who's not constantly this cloying, attention-seeking sort of person. And I think beyond that, they like people who are driven, people who know who they are and where they want to go in life, in my mind.
speak in sociological terms. Like I don't really like to, and then people will say, well, what about this guy? It's like, well, what I'm talking about is across societies. So yeah, looks is going to be much easier for the average person to improve upon, because to become high income and high status enough to where it actually like means something is going to serve to halo you. You really have to like push the limits hard. Like even making like $1 million a year, right? Top 0.025 percentile in the United States. Going against a good-looking guy, you know, you're probably still.
This kind of feels like he's assuming that the only goal here of most people, I guess in this case, they are literally talking about getting maids. But it feels like for people, to indulge something that is so singularly useful to the degree that he does, which to almost to make it your life a little bit, is just not really possible. You indulge in your work, which will get you success and be useful in multiple ways, or you indulge in social skills, which again will be useful in multiple ways. It's one of those things where it's just a better use of your time, because even if you don't get the girl, you're still going to be able to utilize it in a much like more way. Even being strong is something that makes you like more functional in some ways, right? But just literally only like looks maxing is like, okay, yeah, sure. That's great for getting a wife. I don't know how useful it is in necessarily a lot of other areas, unless you're going into like advertising or news anchor, actor, model, something.
Gonna be at a huge deficit there, you know?
In the dating market, you're saying.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. But you know what? So do you think
Right,
the
you know what? I've had enough of this little jackass. No. Maybe he'll grow up, but it feels like at this point he speaks with the perspective of a child yet. And maybe that, oh, sweet glory, I'm so old. But no, he literally, he does feel like he has a very young person's idea of the world. Hopefully he grows out of it, honestly. And to be fair to Clavehicular, he does come off as knowledgeable. He does speak well about this type of plastic surgery or the substances he's taking, right? He comes off as knowledgeable about them, at least in the stuff I've seen him in. I just tend to think maybe with regards to more like human nature or the like, he seems to be inexperienced. It's a sin most of us are guilty of at some point, but you see his perspective seems to be a little bit warped with regards to that type of thing. Anyways, you can look this up if you want. Clavehicular's most extreme looks maxing methods and the truth about attraction.